Okay, hello. Thank you for joining me. I am so excited to catch up with a precious woman and someone I admire so much, Estelle Thomson. She and I got to know each other when she joined my Creatively Fit coaching certification, and that was years ago, right? Like, so long ago. And she has been on a most amazing journey, one that has inspired me over and over and over. I could start crying right now. And we are just catching up, and I just wanted to bring her into your world and just share. Literally, we just got on the video call, and I'm like, I'm just going to start recording right away because I know everyone is.
Just hit play.
Just hit play. Exactly. Oh my gosh, Estelle, it is so good to see you.
Oh, Whitney, well, just first, I just want to say how, like, you were such a catalyst for me. Like, that training really was, like, it just happened so, it was so timely for me, and it really, like, just opened, like, a gateway and a doorway. It was really, like, the entrance into the cave, and just how much it affected me. Yeah, you're just a great, like, teacher, still mentor for me. I talk about you at all my workshops. And so as much, I think the feeling is very much mutual, how much you've inspired me and, like, really for me, like, just amplified everything that was already there, to begin with, but I didn't have. It just helped so much. Like, your vision helped me so much to unleash so much of, everything I offer is based, like, right now, everything I offer is, like, somehow related to you in a way. And because of my background, I came to you as a yoga teacher, not as an art teacher. And so I had that background, and I knew somehow I could merge, art and yoga together. And you really, for me, it was really that connection with that coaching program that was just so revealing, for me. So thank you. To you. And we haven't talked in forever, because we used to talk, like, almost every month, I remember.
I know. Exactly. Well, thank you for saying all that. And, one of the things that I've grown into over the last couple of years is understanding this truth that I know you experience as well, is that there's an energy that's available to come through each of us, a really sacred, magical energy that's connected to our soul purpose. I love my Creatively Fit coaches, right? And I see, this is a superpower that flows through me. Like, I see the potential. Like, it's so funny. It's almost like I'm looking through these glasses as soon as I meet one of the coaches, like when we had our first call, and I can almost picture your space, and you had paintings, and you were this amazing yoga teacher. And I remember you expressing just this really heartfelt desire to earn more money from your art and integrate it into the yoga. And all I could see was done. And
I was like, I still remember that, and I knew I could do it. I just didn't have the tools yet on how to bring forth what was within me. And I love that you say that, because now, like, I mentor people like you gave me, like, that gift, and I mentor a yoga teacher to, like, I help them to include more art in their teachings and more beauty and more really resonance, really. And, I always tell them at the beginning of our call, there's this great vision in classical yoga philosophy where it's like a dragon sitting on jewels, and how will you bring forth the jewels that you're, like, literally already sitting on, but how can you bring forth the jewels, like, and so that they emerge out, in this like fullness of being that, you already are, but it's like you need that kind of fire somehow, how will you bring forth what's within you out,
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I mean, so much of what I do now, it's really thanks to you. So yeah.
Wow. I'm honored. It's a great joy to be able to be in this role, right? And helping people. I almost get teared up every time I talk about how sometimes we need someone else to hold up the mirror to show us our greatness. It's so hard to do it for ourselves. It's so hard. to see it for ourselves. And we don't want to be, we don't want to seem like selfish or egotistical or any of that. And when you're really following your heart's calling, the ego wants to keep you small. The ego wants to keep you safe where you know you're going to look good and you're not going to risk making a mistake. And that kind of sacred pride that comes through when you know that you are in alignment and you are doing this big work is a really powerful transition. And
yeah, and I see my students as much a teacher as I am like a teacher to them. And almost like whenever I work with people in that relationship that I build, whether I teach them only like 1 hour, like straight up yoga class, or I am with them for 3 months, 6 months, sometimes years, it's like a contract we have. And like they help me as much as like I help them. Like I learned so much, and this is what I love about all this work that I do, that sometimes I literally pinch myself like, am I really doing this? Like, I mean, this morning I was in a high school, like 16, 17 student, and I did a painting meditation workshop on the chakras. Like, pinch me, somebody, to think like I would have died and gone to heaven if like a yoga teacher would have come into my class. And like, not only that, like I came in and now the teacher told me, who runs the class, she's like, thank you, Estelle. Now I have the confidence to paint with my students, which is totally available, to them, and to realize that like added dimension of, spirituality, yoga that you can't access with your brain, you can only just feel in your heart. And like, what a beautiful gift that painting is giving us, that, and that's something you've taught me, like what, and it's funny because like I had painted for a long, long time before like I met you and I took your course, but I never understood that what I was painting was really like my life, like it reflected at me, So this morning with the kids, like I did all the chakras, which is really like the rainbow body. And then you look at this painting that you've made and it's like you, like it's the reflection of you and all that you are, like your inwards, and like, this luminous body that, we can't see with our eyes, but we can feel in our hearts. And like, what a beautiful gift to give to 16 and 17 years old that are just beginning this journey, like I just pinch myself. I mean, it hasn't happened like, overnight. It's taken me many years, to get where I am now. But at the same time, it's like, wow, like, I get to do that. And, and yeah, I get to teach that to people. So
that's so awesome. I love that you brought up that, that you had been painting, but this kind of almost like a frequency, like the layer of the process of the practice that becomes meditation, that becomes self-awareness ritual, that becomes a place where you go when you are feeling low vibration or frustrated or sad or grieving or challenged or angry, where you can go to process and get to the truth rather than bulldozing through your life, getting triggered by, other people. It's a practice that is so accessible, but it does seem to somehow, there's an activation that happens that seems to happen super quickly. But I've had so many other coaches. I'm thinking of Christine Pensa at Art That Moves, who's also in Canada, amazing artist. And when she signed up and I saw her illustrations and her art, I was just like, I hope she's not planning on me teaching her anything about how to paint, right? She said, I was so grateful when she shared that, up until the coaching training, she loved teaching art and she knew she was supposed to teach art, but she didn't understand why until,
well, that's right.
That's so humbling to me, but it's like magical. It's just this, it's like a little extra key or an extra little, set of glasses to put on and just look at it differently. And it just seems to ripple out in so many magical ways.
Right. Like even for somebody, you know, and I don't know if Christine, I know I follow her on Instagram. We kind of communicate sometimes, but I mean, what I teach, you know, it's mindful art. It's like literally taking creative leaps, you know, like over and over again. And you know, this effect, I love that you mentioned like layers and stuff, like in a, you know, when you do like a painting in acrylics, you know, you have all these layers, and that really resonated with me. I remember in the coaching program, like, oh my God, totally. Like I'm like an onion, and every layer is so complex, and I could see that. And like, it's almost like, you know, it before, it's not even like, it's like you remember, like how can I say, sometimes I think like when I teach yoga, like, you know, or I teach mindful art, it's like, you're just teaching people to remember what they already are. Like, you know, your layers, you know, you're complex, and it's like, you're widening their lens on what it means to be an artist for them, or what it means to be, you know, a yogi for them, you know? So it's like almost like a re-educating people in like, you know, what does it mean for you to engage in the world, and how can you make your life a masterpiece? Like, because really your life is the painting, you know, your life is the canvas. And that, for me, there's nothing more inspiring than that. And I think people get just so narrow on what, okay, like you're an artist, like you're super artsy fartsy. And it's like, wait a minute. I'm like, you're a mother, you're an artist. Like my husband surfs, he's an artist. Like there's, you know, and it's really like this widening, and yeah, like just having like the glasses are like now, you know, so wide, and then that way there's so much, you know, possibilities. And you know, so acrylics, we talk about layers, but I remember like watercolors, like I do a lot of watercolors, like online classes now, and it's like, you know, watercolors are so unforgiving, like you can't do layers with watercolors. So it's like, how can I accept, you know, what shows up on the paper, you know, as it is? And, you know, and it's another thing you've taught me, you know, like, do you have an eraser? Because my life hasn't had an eraser. Like, I haven't been able to erase anything. And yoga speaks of this too, you know, and yoga is not about improving anything. It's about accepting, you know, everything. And you can accomplish this with an art practice. You can accomplish this, you know, by doing doodles, like, you know, 5 minutes a day, you know. And so it's just another tool you can add, you know, to self-regulate, really, you know, and how to navigate the unknown, aka your life, you know.
Exactly. The image I just had when you were saying that is about really finding and being in our center, living from that center power place as much as possible. And, you know, we talk, you know, we begin the Creatively Fit coaching training, right? And understanding the left, right hemisphere, the roles, the personality, how our life has this logical, linear, ego-centered, fear-based personality and aspect. And then we also have available to us the right hemisphere, which is intuitive and love-based and completely present and creative, and the part of your brain that lights up on the MRI whenever you learn anything new. And right now the world has just gotten more and more dramatic, where, you know, the fear-based and the ego-centered and the logical linear is so loud and strong that the opportunity to balance yourself, your whole life, the way you feel, your emotions, your energy, with right hemisphere activities, which include yoga and dance and movement and music and drumming and the painting.
It's the same, that's right. It's the same connection, you know. Right. I'll tell you something funny that happens. It's fascinating to me. Like I'll run, and that's inspired by you. I run these 21 days, and I call them mindful art now. They were called creative leaps for a long time. And I ask the courses, I give a prompt every day. You know, we have either a theme like under the sea or earth and sky or women in power, whatever, you know. So 21 days. And I ask them to paint for 5 minutes every day. And it's always the same thing that happened. You know, if you dedicate 5 minutes a day, I mean, 5 minutes usually ends up being you probably a bit more than 5 minutes, but as long, you know, you carve that time for yourself. After 6 or 7 days, I'll get like flooded by emails, you know, and people will say, Estelle, what's happened? It's like I see different, like I don't see just the sunrise. I see like the colors are like brighter or something. There's like contrast. And that's only after like 6-7 days or just like, you know, discipline, doing that. And I'm just gonna laugh because I'm like, well, they just rewired their brains. Like, you know, like they've just literally like digged into that part of your brain that's imaginative and intuitive and expansive and infinite. And not only that, they've trained their vision, really. Like their visions has changed because they've been like dabbling in the colors and I just find this so fascinating. Right. And that's available to you. Like that's literally at the tips of your fingers, you know? And it's the same thing for me to teach yoga, to teach art, you know, it's the same connections that, you know, are being made, you know, there's no different for me. It's actually really hard for me to teach art and not teach yoga, and to teach yoga and not teach art. I mean, it's so natural for me to do that. Right. And I don't actually, you know, it's a tragedy that not more yoga teachers think they're artists. You know, that's a tragedy for me. You know, I hope in my lifetime I can change, I can change that, you know? Yeah.
Right. There is something that gets unlocked within us when we realize that the story we've been told around art and creativity and painting is like the tip of the iceberg, like one needle in the haystack. Like what it really is unlocking this truth that the art we're creating in each and every moment is our lives. And I think that's what Estelle and I and all the creatively fit coaches share, is just this desire to like live life to the fullest, that there are more colors available on the palette than maybe the mainstream or, you know, your dad might have described around the dinner table growing up, right? Like there's more to experience, and we want that. Like, you know, we want to experience all of it. The painting's just the modality we use to unlock those abilities and that vision. And
that's what I always say. I say, you know, painting for me and yoga, like that's my jam. Like it might not be your jam, but that's what I've used, and I know like it works for me. Like those lessons, like those are tried, tested, and true. Like I've seen them work for other people, and you know, I've seen them work for me.
Well, and so let me mention this, because when you did the training, you know, part of what I do and what you experience in the coaching training is working with sacred symbols. And we have one magical book, the Hunab Ku, that has 77 sacred symbols, and I prescribe a symbol to each coach at the beginning of the training. I receive it with my pendulum, and I have a process. And Estelle took those symbols right away. That was the first thing that you started integrating, right? And she painted all the symbols in the book and started introducing people to this work, that what you're attracted to, what you want to paint, what shows up on the canvas intuitively is significant. It's a level of communication that's available to all of us, this symbolic language. And what you're attracted to painting is significant. I'm currently working with the owl again, which I've worked with before. I was kind of surprised that it came back up, actually, because I've worked with it so much. And it changes everything, you know, understanding this language.
For me, I mean, so much things that I've taken away from the course. Like I remember we had to set, you know, a word, like an intention word, and my word was bloom. I remember that, like and since then, you know, every year I set myself like a word, and I live by that word. Like last year my word was bold. This year my word is radiance, and you know, and your little banner. And I do that with my adult yoga teacher, and I do that with my, you know, 4, 5, 6-year-olds as well. We'll do more like mantras. We'll do be here now, but we use the words as a visual anchor, right? So just like we'll use our breath as an anchor or a nest, like coming back to ourselves like over and over again, we'll use that visual anchor. So, you know, when you prescribe me that symbol, like I'll always remember it. Like it was the Virgin. It was the chakra 4, the Virgin. And I didn't know what to do with it. I don't know what she wants me to do with this. And, you know, it started such a love story for me, like, you know, from that really like confused state, like, I don't know. And the first thought, Whitney, you're gonna crack up. I think I was like, I'm not a virgin.
Right. Yeah, so let me mention that symbol, because that symbol, whenever it comes up, I'm always like, this is always a fun journey. A virgin used to refer to a woman who was in her power, independent from a man. So these were the priestesses, these were the healers, these were women that had a role in society and were recognized as serving a purpose, completely independent from a man. And it got changed. That word got changed to suggest, you know, something totally different, pretty much the opposite.
Okay.
Keep us down, keep that feminine energy kind of hemmed in. And I have to say, it was the perfect symbol, because if we could have a video of Estelle, and I know you would agree with this, Estelle, whenever it was, like 6 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yes,
I mean, I saw her, I think I said to you right away, like, you are a goddess. Like, be that. And she wasn't there. You weren't. I mean, I wasn't, you know, it's this journey of women taking back our power. And now.
I just got shivers when you said that. I just got shivers because it was that journey for me, like that blooming, because, you know, I was seeking that word because that word was seeking me. You know, there's a great quote by Rumi, you know, and when, you know, and I realized, and it took me, you know, the training is like 3 or 4 months. You know, I remember having kind of an epiphany over it. Like after 3 months, I was like, oh my God, like I needed to put on, like, take myself more seriously, put on my boots and like take my power back. That was independent of, you know, my role as a wife, my role as a mother, my role. And like, I remember like sometimes I talked to you on the phone, I had the 2 babies like on my, and I was like, I would be like rocking one on my foot. I'd be like, but you know, it was such, you know, motherhood for me was such an identity change. And the fact that, you know, I took your training right about this time where like I really came on my own, not just as a mother and as a wife, but as a small business owner, like just to recognize that, be like, okay, I have something going here. And you know, I think the Virgin has like the hand on our heart, and to be like, you know, I can carry all that I am, and it's kind of almost like a pride of sort, you know, and I didn't have that. And she's still with me. And that's what I've learned with the symbols, you know, they stay with you. The journey you have with them, they really stay with you. And yeah, that was such a beautiful symbol, but it took time, you know, to just process it and to do that. But you know, that's such a big part now of, so now like after you've introduced me to the symbols, I had at one point in my studio, like I had an entire wall. I mean, I still study them like every day. I think this morning I did my meditation, I had like my symbols. And now what I teach to people, like what I teach to other teachers, because I bring the symbols in the yoga class, and I have different like super easy like methods for yoga teachers to teach a class, you know, basically we're embodying the symbol. And I mean, the practice becomes so rich, you know, when we do that, you know, we can do like, because they're related to the chakras, they're related. I mean, with the kids, it's so easy. You bring the turtle, you bring the magician, you bring the, you know, and I mean, that for me was such a lock in key too. It just opened up like the creativity and just my sequences in yoga, and really connecting the dots, you know, with just, you know, that knowledge I already had, and then to melt in. I do like, I do big workshops now, and I'll assign everyone a card, and it's just so beautiful to see people's like response. And mind you, you don't have 3 months with them. You just have 2 hours, but you can really see the impact, just how, it's part of your social collective. People, they understand. There's like a level, it's like deeper than just their head. And most of the time they look at me and they're like, how did you know? I love that. I love that. You're bringing, and we're such visual creatures, and you're bringing in, so you're basically, the way I teach yoga teachers, it's like you're bringing a visual add-on to your class. You're literally beautifying your class. And not just that, but like the container of your class becomes so potent. Like it becomes, not only are you reflecting like the art onto you, but it's reflected back, and then everyone's focus is on that one theme or that one intention. And so yeah, anyways, all of these things, were just such catalysts for me, and like, what I do now and what I teach now, in my own way, these are all things.
Whitney Freya cookie cutters. That is not the intention.
But it's really, gosh, if you go on my website, like you could see all your influence, and but because I'm really a yoga teacher, like what I do is really connected to yoga and mindfulness. It's just been wonderful to really add that component, which really made sense, like really landed with me. Not just in what I do, but like, in my life in general. Like I was in Australia this summer, and I went to Crystal, what's it called? Oh my God, Crystal Castle. But anyways, they had a real life labyrinth, like the same symbol as like it's in the Yunnan, and I was like flipping out. I was like, all these things, like it's just, when you have that dimensions of symbols in your life, not just that, like silly things like my name is Estelle, it means star. And all my life, the symbol of the star was such a meaningful symbol for me, and why, it's like the bright star, the light, now it's my logo, like all these things. And like, I've really lived to that name, all these things that influence us, and we're kind of ignorant about it, and then they come into you're like, oh yeah, that's why, and when my story, my son Tommy passed away, and the butterfly symbol became just such a like poignant symbol for me. And if I didn't do like, seriously, if I hadn't had the Yunak and I was seeing, like right after he passed away, I was seeing so many butterfly everywhere. And I went in the Yunab and it talked about release and rebirth. And that was so healing for me. Like that's what the title says, it's like the symbols are they're supposed to be healing and balancing. And it made sense, and really, carved the path for me, and
so the one of your latest creations of art, the Tommy Tinker Forever series, which we'll post a link, or you guys have to watch it. And so Estelle, comment, she lost her son, how many years ago now?
4 years ago now.
Wow. And watching you, you shared your grieving process in such a beautiful way. So for any of you who've are grieving, going through any kind of grieving, whether it's the loss of a child or a relationship, divorce, these huge, incredible, unfathomable life challenges that are, there are no words, right? But to watch you share and process and be so transparent from a place of healing and amplifying the energy of healing in our world, really. And this series you created, the butterfly, right? I mean, you paint this huge butterfly in your white yoga.
Then I become anyways, they have to watch it. Then I become the butterfly.
Yeah, you have to watch it.
When Tommy passed away, like I remember being such in a state of, like, I was so thankful. I kept being like, like, thank you. Thank heavens I've been doing all these years of yoga behind me, and I have, my art practice behind me, because I knew at this point, and that, that for sure the power of yoga and art to, for emotional resiliency, like that was a real thing, and I had, like, I was just so thankful that the connections that already been made for me, like, I had a devotion to the practice, and that's what I was teaching people, and in the documentary, I talk about this, like, small daily acts of bravery, like every day. Like for me personally, I try to do 30 minutes of yoga, 30 minutes of painting. Do I get that every day? Probably not every day, but that's what I aim for, and it's repeated. And now, I would, like, right after Tommy passed, like I just saw it as like, okay, I got to get to work. Like the first thing I did, like, roll down my yoga mat. The first thing I did, I painted and I wrote, and I started writing these posts that I would call, Tommy Tinker Forever. And I just knew, like, writing made me feel better. So I just kept going. And, after 6 months, a year, I realized, oh my God, this is helping like a lot of people. So I'm just going to continue. And so 4 years went by, and it was just not just writing. Like, these were like paintings I made. I have a whole collection I call Magic Garden Connection. And for like a year, every year I do 100-day project, which I think I used to talk to you about those. So I'll do like 100 days, and, in the end, usually it ends up in an art show anyways. And then 1 year it was 100-day of Jardin Magique, which are magic gardens. And I would literally, like, be obsessed with flowers. Like, I just got completely obsessive about flowers. And I would paint these sketchbooks full of flowers every day. And I remember, Whitney, I was in my studio, and it was like right a week before my art show. And I just it was probably like 2 a.m. and I was almost like inside my own obsession. I was like, what the hell does it all mean? Like, I was like, why? And I looked around, and I was like, oh my God, I transform my pain into flowers.
Yeah.
And it was such, I still get emotional, like, talking about it, because it was such, like, I did that, like that, not that it was easy to paint every day. And did I know why I was painting flowers? Like, I didn't know, but I just, went for it, And there's something Elizabeth Gilbert talks, so there's it's a quote of her I love so much. It says, follow your obsessions and follow your compulsion, because, like, that's what will cause your heart's revolution. Like, I love that word, like, yes. Revolution. And it's really, what it did, and I just, follow that. But anyway, so the butterflies is the same thing, like, why I'm just so upset, but it would make so much sense that, it's so rich, the meaning and the symbolism of the butterfly. And in a way too, we kind of, it's not an easy thing to change from caterpillar to butterfly. Like, we kind of, like, there's a fantasy around, but really, and I think it's like, really, I think our work, like, as creatively fit coaches, and it's almost like to demystify this myth of, you know, the artist, like as if it was easy for me to paint every day. No, it's not. Like people are just like, oh, it's just easy for you to do that. And it's like, well, actually, no, like, but I know that at the end, it makes me feel better. So
Yeah,
that yeah. And if I get to remember that, you know, then I'm just going further and like just following where my emotions lead me and where my, you know, visions, you know, leads me. I don't know, but anyways, not sure how I got to that track, but
I have to say, this is what we're referring to when we talk about how we create our reality, right? Like I've had people, or I've seen, observed people talking about, like, I didn't create my son's death, right? Like, of course not. But Estelle took life circumstances and she created this garden, this opportunity for her to grow and bloom in spite of the challenge and the heartbreak and the grief, you know. So this is how you create your reality. We can't control anything but ourselves. We can't control anything but how we interpret a situation, how we respond, what we do with the energies. And this, like, the ripple effects, like the seeds you've planted, you know, there's so many metaphors coming to me with the flowers in the garden, you know, it has, you know.
And how grief in a way, and that's what I like literally taught myself after, like, you know, I was like, grief is like a garden and you got to tend to it, you know. And if you, it's a perfect metaphor, but because it's like, you know, like when you take the roots out and it gets messy and then you think some roots is out and it's not really out. And usually when you don't deal with something, like it comes back like over and over again. And, you know, really, like, you know, your body and your emotions, like they want your attentions like all the time. You know, people will come to yoga and this and that hurts. And it's like, well, that's because it wants your attention. Tend to that, you know, and that's what the art and the yoga, you know, really helps you kind of, you know, garden, like, you know, but you got to do the work. And, yeah, you got to do the work. And it doesn't mean, even after like 20 some years of doing both art and yoga, there's still, like, I feel there's still resistance. Like there's still, like, whenever I see a blank canvas, like there's still that, like, you know, it's empty. And, you know, and maybe now it's kind of like, okay, like, it's kind of like a roommate or like a little backpack, like, come along, fear, or hi, like it's always there. But, yeah, I mean, and I yeah, there was something else I wanted, there was one more thing I wanted to say. Just, oh yeah, that I really struggle with that part, because I believe that you like manifest your life, right? You like the thing, like I believe that. So this is something I really struggle with when Tommy died, because I was like, I didn't create this. Like I didn't want this, you know, but this was given to me, you know, and you know, my life is like my classroom and it was given to me somehow. Like, how can I carry this, like, in my heart, and how can I do this well? Like when, you know, Tommy passed, I was like, okay, like I'm going to live with this like all my life. And that was the lifetime part. That was the hardest part, was like all my life, I'm going to have to live without him. And how can I do it well? And how can I do it with grace and with ease? But, you know, we got to do the work, you know, we got to do the work. And that's what, like, all the coaches, you know, we have to think of ourselves, we're like little, like luminaries, you know, in each other's community. And when CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation here in Canada, they approached me, you know, I mean, I had been writing and painting and posting quotes for like 4 years, you know, and they approached me and they were like, do you want to do a documentary? And that too was scary, but I was like, you know what? I just want to help people. Sure. And so the bones were there, but anyways, I had to write the scripts. I didn't know what the hell I was doing but it was there. I knew the bones were there. And I was just listening to a podcast with Stephen Pressfield, I really love his book, The War on Art, or The War of Art. Anyways, it's a really good, quick little read. And I love, he said, every time you have a dream, and in my wildest dreams, like I never thought this would become like a series, a video series or anything. But, whenever you have a dream, there's always a shadow over it. Like there's always resistance. And usually the things you want the most, there's the most like resistance, and over it. And it's just kind of bring like resistance along for the ride. And perhaps that's what like, so people are so afraid of their own creativity and their own, the jewels that they're sitting on, like, they're, perhaps they think they're going to shine too bright, or I don't know what, but it's such a privilege for me now to, I don't know. And too, sometimes, I don't know if you do that, Whitney, but when I paint sometimes and I finish a painting, it's almost as if it's not me that's painted it. Like, I'm like, did I really do this? And that documentary, like, really, have you ever had that happen to you?
Well, yeah, the same thing. Like at the beginning, there's this wave of like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, is this going to even look like anything I'd want to look at for a while? And then there's, there is the layers, and it's just like life. Like it's an ongoing dialogue. And this painting behind me is kind of my intention painting for 2019. It's connected to an energy and a vision that has me really excited. And there was a point I woke up in the morning and looked at it in my bedroom, and I was like, oh, you look dark. Like you look like too serious. And so I went and lightened her up. And now, I look at that painting and I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. And it's magical. Like it feels magical to me. It doesn't feel like I painted it. It is a really interesting kind of dance between your conscious self and your infinite self, or the energies around, or, we don't have to explain it, right? But there is a alchemical experience that happens at the canvas when you approach it just with this intention of increasing your self-awareness, of going within and connecting to your own deep wisdom that is there. It has to come through this kind of infinite right hemisphere part of you. It's not the logical part that stores the information that you've learned. It's the present moment wisdom that's available to you when you open up and let go of the stories and the past and the history and what you believe you're good at or not good at, or what you have available to you or not. When you create those openings in your day, in your
That's
life,
right.
It's just, you are flooded with blessings. And it's, as Estelle is saying, and you can see in her life and mine as well, like, it's not that it's always a bed of roses, right? It's that because we have this practice, we're able to rise up and meet these challenges with grace and gratitude, even when, even in the anger and the hurt and the pain.
And actually, most especially when you're angry, most especially when you don't want to do it,
Yeah.
And most especially because that's when you need it the most, like most people will suffer a loss and, completely stuck in and completely blocked and completely, and then what shows up, depression, what shows up, anxiety, whatever, right? I mean, if I look back, I could have been medicated, I could have been, but I knew that I had art and yoga. And I mean, that's all of this, what you're talking about, like the magic of your painting and looking like, I mean, it's really the muse like working through you. And like, I almost think like inspiration is a myth these days. Like, as long as you sit your butt down and you put a brush in your paint, like whatever you call it, like the muse or energy or creativity will move through you, and that's another quote from the documentary. like you can, right now you can watch it, like it's 30 minutes long. You can watch the whole thing, but you can also watch episodes. But I made sure like each episode is kind of like either painting or either yoga. But in one of the episodes, there's a quote by Rumi. It's and it says, "You dance inside my chest like no one watches you," you know. And I do, and like sometimes I think my son, he's like my little messenger, you know. And you know, with like he's making me like making all this beautiful art, or like, you know, there's you know, it moves through you, and how can I be a clear channel for that, you know? And I can't be a clear channel if, you know, I don't know, if I don't sleep enough, if I eat too much, if I, you know, whatever, you know, if I have toxic relationships, if I'm on the computer scrolling all the time, you know, so, and that's hard, you know, to be completely awake to what shows up at your door and be like, okay, like I'm here, you know. And now, you know, and it's so cool. Like now, because I'm so receptive to it, and you must feel the same. Like I literally, like I will start painting and feel the release from my arm and feel this kind of like exhale where, like, you know, have you ever like, you know, you hug your kid and then there's this moment where your kid just like, just lets go, like he's completely safe and completely held, you know. Right. And this beautiful moment that, you know, both in yoga and art, you know, it's like all I have right now is what I need, and all I need right now is what I have, and like that's enough, you know. And it's a beautiful gift that's available to you, and I hope that everyone, and again, you know, it's like pain, art and yoga is art, you know, it's my jam. But I know my husband, like, it's like he goes surfing, and that's his, like, whenever he comes back, it's kind of like, oh, you're back to my, like, yeah, it's like, and I can even see in his physiology how he's like just centered and calm and just really, you know, and it kind of realigns, you know, it creates a release for him, or he'll like, you know, do his hobby and stuff. And that's what I talk, you know, at the end of the documentary, the Tommy Tinker Forever, you know, I really wanted people to see, like, yes, it's the story, it's my story of, you know, grief, but ultimately it's not just my grief project, it's my love project, you know, and to carve time, you know, doing what you love, you know, that, like, that's the purpose of life, basically, you know, like, and now I don't call it, you know, I used to call the grief project for years, and now I'm like, it's not the grief project, it's the love project. You know, and I don't know why it took me so long to think that, but really, you know, yeah, and like now it's like, what a gift Tommy left me, you know, to never be without his inspiration, like to never be without his love, and to know that my love extend like times and place, and that he's present in all of what I make, like in the food that I make, and in my paint, I'm gonna start crying, in the paintings that I make, and in the way, like I thought those kids this morning, like they were all little Tommies, you know. Yeah. So it's such a privilege. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for you to for me to get to connect with you right now, and then to share this with everybody, because again, that's the name of the game, is to share this this love. And I just want to leave everyone with this aha I just got listening to Estelle, that that whether it's the surfing, the painting, the yoga, I paraglide now, that's a huge one. It's about creating these moments of freedom. These things that, activities that make your heart sing and bring you present and light you up from the inside. That's where we experience freedom. And with life the way it is, it's just so important right now to create those spaces for yourself. And really, you know, the freedom, the beauty and the love and the energy that's available, the power, the authenticity is just abundant. So
yeah, and it's really, you know, that was the way we were meant to engage with the world, you know. That was the way we were meant to engage with the world, and we just forgotten. And as coaches or teachers or parents, you know, we're just there to help people remember. Isn't that silly? But it's like, you remember because like they know, like deep down inside, like they know deep down inside, everybody has asked themselves, like, maybe I'm an artist. Like, I think I'm really an artist, you know, because we all are artists of our own lives, you know, creating the big canvas of our, like, of a big masterpiece of our life. But thank you so much for having me so much. Can I just say this one thing? I'm going to Costa Rica, and I'm going to
say that.
Okay. I'm going to, and so I do yoga and creativity retreat. We're going to Nocera the first week of March. And I mean, I do work with symbols, and I work with the element. There's an emphasis on nature this time around, so we'll be in the gardens and in the greenhouse, and it's just the place is on top of a mountain, and it's glorious there. So that's the first week of March, and then I'm going to France. I rented a big castle, and we're going to do yoga and creativity in France. And but Costa Rica from like the States is not even that far. And my prices are like really, really good. So, and I'm not doing any retreats next year. I'm taking a year off. I think I'm going to go to India.
Woo!
I think I'm going to go to India next year. But anyway, so this year I'd love if maybe some coaches, like, you can go on my website, EstelleThomson.com. Thompson, no P, and I'm always a message away. I think I'm in all the groups, and I'm on Instagram too, and all that.
Yeah, stuff. And not just the coaches are going to watch this. I'm just putting this on my YouTube channel so everyone can share. So absolutely check out Estelle's retreats. She's magical. And I just want to leave us with the precious word, namaste. Sister, the divine in me sees and honors the divine in you. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you for everything.